Hey guys, this is Jeremy, and I'm with Shane Sterling, and we're here talking about raw food and just the powers of raw food and the connection to spirit and the connection to nature with raw foods. And Shane Sterling has been into raw foods for a while. He's actually been like vegan for I don't know how long, since he was 17 years old. So yeah, I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shane Sterling. I have been a vegan for 30 years and raw vegan for 2.5 years. I started a YouTube channel named Raw Vegan Rising, where you can follow me and follow my journey. And I'm, really into educating and supporting people in their journey. So I have a group coaching membership that I support people with their transition. I'm a coach, and I've been learning about being a vegan for most of my life since I was 17. I'm 47 now, so it's been a lot of years. And the more I learn, the more I have to just be honest with myself and say, okay, processed foods, junk foods, fried foods, veggie burgers, none of that's really going to create health in our body. So what is it that's going to create health in our body? Well, whole unprocessed raw foods, the foods that come from nature that don't interfere with our well-being and don't interfere with our digestion and absorption and utilization of food. And then when we get really clear on the raw living foods, that's when we can really excel and experience life on a whole new level. So since experiencing this myself, I've dedicated my whole life to it. So I switched careers, became a health coach, became a raw vegan coach, and that's where I am today. So it's completely transformed my life.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's awesome to hear different people's stories and different sides of their story. Um, yeah, so when was like a specific point in your journey or in your experience where you were just like, okay, I just know that the raw food is the way to go. I'm just gonna dedicate myself to that.
I was working on actually my self-worth at the time, and I was doing a really long, intensive series of visits with a therapist, actually. And we were at a level, I was 3 years in with this therapist, believe it or not. And we were at a level where I was working on my self-worth. And at one point, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was really like a before and after moment. I realized that for me to truly be integrity with my highest self, and for me to really live from my core values in a really real, honest way, I couldn't be eating processed foods and junk foods. I just knew it on an intuitive level. So I made the decision right then and there that to up level my self worth, to heal my self worth, to heal my sense of worthiness of having a freedom in my life, like spiritual freedom and emotional freedom, and to be a sovereign being, an individual, and not under this mind control of junk food and processed foods and big transnational corporations trying to sell us all this garbage all the time. I said enough is enough. Raw food is going to be my path to freedom. So it was really that was the catalyst for me. But I had been learning about raw food for a lot of years. I first discovered the book called A Seen Gospel of Peace, which talks about raw food. It's supposedly the translated words from Jesus from the Dead Sea Scrolls back from 2,000 years ago. He was an Essene, and the Essenes were raw foodists. And so it's really supposed to be the direct words of Jesus talking about the power of raw food to heal our gut. And he talks about doing enemas, cleaning the bowels, eating raw foods, fasting. So this is like this was the first time I really became aware of the raw food diet and lifestyle and the kind of the hygienic diet and lifestyle when I first came across that book. And that was when I was 30 years old, which is 17 years ago now for me. So once I discovered that book, there was no going back. It was always in the back of my mind, and I couldn't really get past it because I knew it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It really like just opened my mind up, and I had this intuitive feeling that it was going to be my destiny. And it was really daunting at first. I was like, well, who does that? Nobody's eating raw food. It's, extreme, or who would want to do that? But little by little, life massaged me into alignment with what I feel is like my calling and my destiny, which is to just literally be in integrity with myself. That's it. It's not to like convince anybody of anything. It's really to just live in the highest integrity with myself. And because of doing that, then I naturally want to help and serve others. So my whole life focus now is to be in service to others and to, so yeah, I educate and I'm a vegan coach and all that, but it's really about helping people because people are struggling. And people are struggling with their self-worth, and people are struggling with their health, and people are struggling with not being able to make enough money and working jobs they hate and feeling down on themselves and having relationships that are toxic in their lives and just struggling to get by. So that no go. That's a no go. We need to up level our life so that we can be free and feel positivity in our hearts and feel connection with our higher self and God and feel that purpose and mission in our life. So that's what it's about. I've done that. I've aligned. I think diet plays a huge role. And if we're not aligning our diet and like what we put into our body and what we build our body based on, we're not really being honest with ourselves because we are what we eat. And if we're not putting pure building blocks in, raw living foods, water, minerals, enzymes, the gases, the phytonutrients, undestroyed, unprocessed, if we're not putting that in, then I think we're going to struggle. And we see that as a result in our society around us. People are struggling. And I believe it starts with what we put in our mouth. So if we want to alleviate the struggle and the stress and the problems we all experience in our life, let's start with what we put in our mouth. I think it plays a big role.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. That's pretty awesome. Um, yeah, like you were mentioning the whole connection and connecting to our true gifts and our purpose. And I think that's really important. And a lot of times, you talk to the average person in the beginning about raw foods and they're not there. They don't understand it. So you can have this passion behind it, like, oh, it's more than just, and you're right, you said like the diet is really, really important, and it's so true. And at the same time, all these other things go into it, right? It's the connection to source, your true highest gifts. And I like how you said that you naturally help people just through like tapping in and going into your that awakening through raw foods, and it just comes natural. And I think that's really cool because I feel it's like a gateway to, like, raw foods is a gateway to really tapping into your gifts. And I don't know if you want to expand on that more.
Yeah, well, I think people are afraid of success more than failure. So let's just be honest with that. And so I think it seems extreme or limiting or eccentric or restrictive to only eat raw food. But what we might overlook or not understand is that eating the wrong foods, eating foods that are not designed for our biology to thrive, just harms us. It just hurts us. So we've grown up into a society that has indoctrinated us into a diet and lifestyle and a way of being and a way of seeing ourselves in the world that includes low self-esteem, abuse and trauma, patterns of trauma in our life, and we take this on as our identity. So then we think it's normal to live a life of trauma and self-abuse and self-violence. So the first step is realizing that we are worthy of thriving and we can't be afraid of our success. We can shine at the highest level possible, bringing out that light. And all that means to be a leader and to shine your light is to be in service, to help, to want to help to make the world a better place. That's all it is. So unless we've found a way to give back, a way to serve others, unless we've built a platform of service, we are struggling, period, in our life. That's just the way it works. All religions and spirituality and stuff have components that talk about this, and I'm not a religious person. I don't follow a specific religion, but I'm a very spiritual person. And I believe the highest tenet of spirituality is service. So anything that helps us get onto our purpose and our mission work so that we can bring our highest gifts to the world is going to alleviate our problems, our struggles, and our suffering. If anyone right now watching this doesn't have enough money or struggles to pay the rent or struggles to put gas in the car to have a normal life, It's because you're not serving enough people. If you serve people, it comes back to you. What we give is what we get. It's a universal law, you know. And so we have to play by the rules. We have to play by these universal laws, whether we realize it or not. So that's basically it. You want more money, you want more happiness, you want more success, serve more people. It's kind of as simple as that. Did
Yeah,
I touch on the topic specifically that you asked? What was your
yeah.
question?
No,
That's
that was perfect.
good.
That was great. Yeah. No, yeah, that's really cool because I know we like to think to receive that we need to like go after things so much, but really like we already have what we need. And when I think that when people hear that, a lot of times they think having what they need means like they look at their situation and, well, I don't want to be stuck in this situation. But what they're looking at is they're not looking at what, because they're in a situation, yeah, they're not actually looking at what they truly have. They're not going in, is what I'm trying to say. They're not going inwards to see what they can share with others. And and I know for me, I had the same experience too. It was just like raw foods helped me clean out and feel and actually be able to be at service. And finally I'm coming to a point actually right now where I feel like, it's just I feel weird not to share. I don't know if that's what you experience now, is that you would feel out of place now to not share your raw food journey, not share this passion of uplifting other people's lives. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. It's I think when we realize some of the secret, when we align in our life, we naturally feel that exaltation, that those gifts that come from that. It feels really good. So we naturally want to serve others in that. We want to help uplift others because we feel that ourselves. That's the key right there. When we are feeling that call to share our story. And one of the problems with low self-esteem is that we have this problem called the who am I's. Well, who am I to share my story? Who am I to say anything about it? I'm not qualified. Who am I? No one wants to hear about what I have to say. I'm not important. I'm a nobody. It's the who am I's. It's an illusion that keeps us from serving. Because you know what the highest level of serving is? It's actually really simple. It's not washing, the feet of lepers and stuff like that. All it is sharing our story, because when we share our story we give permission to others who are in the same position to make it through their life, because we realize we're not alone. Just witnessing someone else in their struggle and their turmoil and their challenges gives permission to others to be in their struggles and their challenges. And when we feel permission, that's when we can say, you know what, hey, I'm not alone. I can get out of this situation. I can improve my life. I can do things to better my situation. So really, we're all being really selfish if we don't share our story. Okay. And so raw food, when you feel that that connection and that clarity of mind that comes from eating whole raw living foods, you naturally want to share your story. And so we have to go with that. If that's what's coming up, sharing our raw food journey or sharing our health journey, whether it's whatever it is, getting fit or in the gym or eating vegan or all these things that people want to share and get inspired about, the natural tendency to want to share is actually our natural tendency to want to give and serve others. So we have to really trust that. But if we have damaged self-worth because we have all been abandoned and traumatized and abused, and it comes down our family lineage, and we've been in thousands of years of struggle, then the natural thing that takes the hit, the natural thing that suffers, is that natural feeling of wanting to share our story, because we have the who am I's. Who am I to share? So we got to be careful of that.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. Um, yeah, no, that's so true. Wow. That's a lot of downloads. That's a lot of stuff to think about, really. And like, yeah, that's great. What's next? Well, what I was gonna say. I was gonna mention how you were talking about earlier, like at the beginning, you're talking about the kind of cleaning out. I think you were talking about cleaning out and getting rid of we're getting rid of all like the processed food and like that type of stuff, right? Um, it's kind of interesting because it's the same thing with life in general. Like, eating healthier is and eating healthy and being clean and eating raw foods and getting rid of the junk food is the same as kind of just finding your gifts because you're getting rid of what doesn't work anymore and you're getting rid of what doesn't serve us anymore. So it's like as a connection. I don't know what you think about that.
That's a good point, Jared. Yeah, I there's a saying that I love that is, uh, losing an illusion makes us wiser than finding a truth. We can stuff information in our brain all day long until we're, filled with information. That doesn't do any good. Shedding illusions is what makes us wise and knowledgeable, and all wisdom comes from within. So if we're clouded within, if we're, damaged self-worth and toxic with junk food and, degenerative conditions going on in our body, inflammation and, eczema on our skin and all these conditions people have, how are we going to connect with that wisdom within? We're not. We're cut off from it. So junk food, processed foods, animal products cut us off from our internal wisdom. And that's why the yogis and all the masters and the Essenes were all raw foodists, because if you're going to commune with the divine, if you're going to have a connection with God and feel your life purpose coming through you in perfect harmony and clarity, it's going to have to be through this vessel. This is our divine vessel, and this is a vehicle that we've been given. So the vehicle has to be operating at peak performance, and it has to be clean and running optimally to have that connection. So it might taste good to eat pizza, but it's going to damage your connection to the divine. And so when we think, well, it's restrictive to eat raw food, it's it's we're eating these junk foods that cut us off from our source and from our spiritual connection. So we have to make a judgment call. Which is more important? Going along with the status quo and being a part of this, a damaged society that's going off the cliff like the lemmings, everybody following along, blindly, or we have to say enough is enough. I'm going to take responsibility for my life purpose, getting connected to, my relationship with the divine and God, and live in alignment with my real values, which is to serve and be of high integrity and to make a difference in the world. That's what we all really want, whether we realize it or not, because if we're not doing that, we're suffering and we're feeling sorry for ourselves. So this desire to, just eat meat and dairy and eggs and processed grains and breads and sugars and think that's normal, that's just an act of feeling sorry for ourselves, and it's an act of self-abuse and self-violence. So when we, which comes first? Do we cut out the junk food and then have spiritual awakening, or do we have a spiritual awakening and realize we got to cut out the junk food? Well, it's one or the other. I mean, take whichever one comes first to you, because it's all going to lead you in the same place, which is to have your spiritual awakening and your spiritual experience. And when we all have enough of these awakenings in our life, then our entire civilization can go down the path that really creates prosperity and harmony and well-being for everyone.
Yeah.
There's another saying that I really love, which is it's everybody or nobody, which means that if everybody's not coming along on this journey to prosperity, then none of us are going on the journey to prosperity. So we can't thrive off of somebody else losing. So if the animals on the planet are currently losing because we think we need to eat them, that means we're losing because we're all connected. So we can't look at it like, well, they lose, but we get ours. So who cares about what's going on with them? We have to incorporate the well-being of all life, the environment, the animals, and everything into our picture of where we go and how we succeed as a species on this planet. It has to include everyone. And if it's not, we're just fooling ourselves. And again, it's a game of feeling sorry for ourselves because of our damaged self-worth. So when we get really honest and really clear, then we know it's a win-win-win that we're looking for. A win for you, a win for me, and a win for everything around us.
Right. Yeah. We all must take we have to do our own part, right? And yeah, everything affects one thing affects the other, and yeah, it's like a domino effect. Everything everything comes back around. It's all energy. It's all connected.
Yes, it
Yeah.
certainly is. And there's no better way to feel that connection than to eat raw food. I
Right.
mean, if you're like, well, I don't know if everything's connected because you're over there and I'm over here, and who says, you know? Well, try eating raw food for a year, only raw living foods, and see what you say after that. You'll feel that connection. Maybe even after a couple months, you'll feel that connection, and you will be on your knees
Yeah.
weeping at the truth of it all, at the truth of the connection level, you know? And there's nothing as powerful as eating the raw living foods, and then you go out in the sun and you feel that connection with the sun and the plants and water and nature, and you can just feel it. And so it's like you don't want to kill
Yeah.
the fly or the ant, because that that affects you. And so harming someone else is really just harming yourself. And then ultimately that leads to like treating your brother with respect. And that's where service comes in. All of a sudden we're like, well, wait, if I help you, I'm helping me, you know? And then so naturally we fall into that paradigm of service and creating value for others because it ultimately serves us.
Right. Yeah. That's so amazing. It's kind of off topic, but I made this I made a simple video on YouTube, and somebody reached out to me, and it really actually touched them. So, and I'm barely getting started. So, it's really amazing, and I know you have such a big impact, and it's easier to it's easy to look at people with a big following, but none of that really matters actually, right? I mean, it's just you don't realize how much of an impact you have until you just put yourself out there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's the case of the who am I's. Well, who am I to talk about my life? Nobody's going to care. But if you do, you might just find that people do care and that you make a difference for others just by talking about your experience and your life.
Right.
And that we don't need to have any more education or anything figured out. We don't need more knowledge or more success to make a difference for others. All we need to do is just talk honestly from where we are currently. That could be sleeping under a bridge. If you're sleeping under a bridge and sharing your story, it's going to help others feel not so bad about their life. And then we can all kind of say, well, hey, we're all in this together. I can do this. Yeah, it's not so bad. And that's really the power of sharing where we're at in our life. It doesn't matter. My following that I have on YouTube uh, is the result of me being really honest and the result
Yeah.
of me just speaking truthfully about my life experience. So I don't have anything more figured out than
Yeah.
anyone else.
Yep.
I've just developed um, my ability to speak about it over the last year and a half of doing my YouTube channel. And the more we do something, the better we get at it. So if you're like, well, I could never talk about my life or my struggles, then if you just start, you feel like a total awkward dork, but ultimately you you find your group, you find your voice, and then you're really in service. Then you're really up leveling your life by doing that. So it's a worthwhile endeavor. It's really
Yeah.
worthwhile to find our voice. So you're doing that, Jeremy, and that's why I am supporting you and coming on your channel. It's to help because, and also we never know who we're going to touch. It doesn't matter if I touch one person, I feel like I've done good work for the day. It doesn't matter how many people. It's not about always about big impact or big audiences. Sometimes it's just about helping people at the level that we're at, because service happens on the ground level where
Yeah.
people are living and where people are at. And so that's what it's about. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about just being you, and you being you attracts the people that need you, right?
That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. And, that's one of the brilliant things of the information age as we crest out of the industrial age where everything was based on physically moving objects from location A to location B and brick and mortar businesses and the Main Street USA was where we shopped. All of shopping is online now. The information age brings the world right here at our fingertips. So that means every single one of you listening to this right now has the potential to have a voice, have a following, be appreciated, be an influencer, make a difference. All you have to do is find your voice at the camera, because I'm looking at a camera right now. So I'm not talking to the person listening.
Yeah.
I'm talking to a camera. All you got to do is get past that, and you're good. and then you can make a difference. So just practice it with the camera off to start. Try talking. The first time I ever made a YouTube video, it was horrible. I felt so awkward. um, and I left it up on my channel. It's my very first video that's up on my channel because I want to honor that no, I didn't have it all figured out. I wanted to jump in, be awkward, and do it anyway.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah, one step at a time. Um,
That's right.
Earlier you were talking about nature. You're talking about the connection between nature. When did you start feeling, when did you start really feeling connected, more connected to nature? Was it because of raw foods? And like when around, like an approximate, that doesn't matter. Just like what is your experience with that?
Well, I went vegan when I was 17. So the reason I went vegan was because I felt the connection to everything. So I've always been an intuitive person and a sensitive person and an artistic, creative person. And so I felt it right away as a kid and knew that if I was eating animals, that I was causing harm and suffering to myself. I just
Hmm.
knew that right off the bat. But I would say when I was 24, 7 years after going vegan, I had a really big spiritual awakening in my life where I was really being requested to learn how to meditate and like practice like breathing techniques and like breathing pranic energy, like in my meditations, like visualizing light,
Yeah.
and these kind of things. And I'd never done it before, but all of a sudden I was feeling called to educate and learn. I was reading books on it and going out into nature and meditating and experiencing like this ability to commune with nature and use like the power of my thoughts to affect things. And I was experimenting with like how to create physical changes with my thoughts. So it might sound weird, but um, just a short story. I was sitting in a parking lot once in my car. I was by myself, and there were a couple cars down in the parking lot was a dog sleeping on the front seat of the car. And I thought, well, let me see if I can use my psychic powers to like wake the dog up and communicate with the dog because I was in this practicing mode.
Hmm.
So I focused my energy. I did a short meditation where I brought light down and light up, and I swirled it around and focused it in my mind's eye, and I like shot this like energy ball at the dog. And at that moment, the dog sat up in the front seat and started barking, and looked right at me and started barking at me. And it was two cars down in the parking lot. It was crazy. I didn't make a sound. So
It's
I
real.
was experimenting with things like that. So I would also like hide in bushes. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I would hide where people couldn't see me out in public, and then send like thought messages to people, and try to get them to turn around and look at me directly. And I experimented with that a lot. And that was just my early days. I was 24 at that time. I'm 47 now, so I've had a lot of experience with that. But when you experience that feeling of connecting with the dog and using energy and directing your thoughts and energy around you, you realize so quickly that the fabric of reality is all one, and we are just imprinting into the fabric around us. So, veganism, though, led me there. And I wasn't eating raw food at the time, but I was not eating animal products at all. So I was pretty whole food focused. I was eating like a lot of lentils and beans and rice and things and salads, of course, but really whole food. And so even just that, even just cutting out junk food and
Yeah.
animal products gave me a whole new understanding of the connectedness of life and nature. So I wouldn't say go out into nature and meditate to try to get a connection with everything around you. I wouldn't even say that. I would say go vegan. I would I would say that
Yeah.
if you want a connection with nature, eat nature, put nature in your body. So the more fruit and vegetables you can eat, the more connection you're going to feel with nature. And the first couple of weeks I was raw, like it was almost like a cliche. I would go outside and everything would be sparkling, and I would feel like the life force flowing through me. I could see it flowing through the trees. It was like straight out of like a cartoon or something. It was
Yeah.
really weird, and
Yeah.
it has since subsided. I mean, I've been raw for 2.5 years, and it's more stabilized,
Hmm.
but that sensation of being connected to everything is now just part of me. and it's who I am being. It's my come from. So I've internalized it. It's become, just the basis of how I operate. So what at first is like, wow, I feel so connected to everything, then just becomes who you are and your come from, and we get more success from it. We honestly do. If we
Yeah,
really want success, it's not about ripping people off or climbing up the backs of others in capitalism and trying to make a profit at the expense of the environment and animals and others. It's about being in alignment, the holistic approach to life. And if we can do it that way, we can create success businesses from a holistic place of unity and prosperity for everyone, then we've really created success. And it's
hmm,
almost like a responsibility that we really have to do this as the next generations come up and inherit this chaos that we have on our planet. This is what we want to be doing, creating holistic, thoughtful businesses that take care of everyone and create prosperity for everyone.
yeah. You're doing it out of good and authenticity and without greed. You're just naturally doing it, right? So it comes back to,
And there's profit in that, and we can make profit too, and
yeah,
have our needs met, and
yeah,
have wealth, and create enough for everyone. So it's not an either or. It's not like, well, I have to be broke and have a vow of
exactly.
poverty to be in service or to be spiritual. We can have wealth and physical material well-being and be spiritual and save animals and save the planet all at the same time. There's
Yeah,
enough wealth on this planet to go around. We've just been duped into thinking that there's not enough because the very, very selfish people at the very top of the pyramid steal the wealth off the top of our society. And the black economy that we don't get to see, that runs the governments and the militaries around the world, there's enough money in the black economy to put $1 million in the pocket of every single human being on earth,
yeah,
and more. And so there's nothing but resources on this planet. There's nothing but wealth. It's just been stolen from us. And so we're indoctrinated into thinking that we don't have enough when we really do. So
right.
that's why we can go vegan, and that's why we can have money and health and well-being, and live in alignment and have it all, because we just can. We just have to realize we can. It comes back to self-worth.
Hmm.
If we're indoctrinated into a society that says we don't have that, so we're not worthy of having that, we have to just take what we're given
Hmm.
and sit down and shut up and don't question the status quo and let the government tell you what to do, then we're that's
Yeah,
what we're gonna have. So
that's not living.
we gotta break free from that, and raw foods helps with that too. We to think for ourselves means we got to be clear minded.
Hmm.
We got to eat healthy food. We got to get healthy in order to think clearly. So it's just the result of the actions. I mean, another universal law is cause and effect. Every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you get healthy, you all of a sudden have power. You know, and the reason why there's junk food on every corner across America is because the people in power know that if we're sick and eating junk food, we're not powerful. We can't change the status quo. So that's why. I mean, I don't know if the people in power do that intentionally or if it's some subconscious way of controlling us, but we've got to take that power back and get healthy. Number one,
Awesome.
right?
So for everybody that's listening here, what would you say for them to do? Like, what is the first step towards, living this lifestyle? What do you think that is? Like you said, go vegan, but is there anything else like to get into raw foods that you would recommend?
I coach people on the transition every single day. People are dealing with food addiction and emotional addiction.
Hmm.
Okay, so our identity is completely intertwined with our diet and our family culture. So if our family culture eats steak for dinner, our identity is based on the family coming around steak. Okay, so we have to realize that we have an emotional need around food, and we have a physical addiction to food as well. So we have to really get past both of those. It's not easy. So we can use willpower at first to get so far. We can say, okay, I'm going to just use willpower to eat vegan and to resist the influences coming and the pressures coming from society and my family. But that's only going to get us so far. Willpower doesn't get us very far, maybe a year max, maybe a year or 2 or 3, maybe even 5 or 10 years max. Okay, but that's why you see so many vegans going back to eating meat and dairy. It's not because we need to eat meat and dairy. I'm living proof. We can be perfectly healthy without animal products or cooked food. But what we really do need is a sense of belonging in the world and in our communities. So if we're relying on our friends, family, and communities for our well being, for how we make a living, our identity, we're beholden to them in a way where we have this kind of psychological agreement that we're going to participate in order to feel safe.
Yeah.
So, what we really need to do is hook into a vision for our life that's bigger than ourselves, that kind of like is maybe, you know, short-term vision would be 3, 5, 10 years out for your life, okay? But a long-term vision, which would be 1,000 years out, well, what do we want humanity to be like in 7 generations from now and beyond? Okay, and all the Native Americans thought in 7 generations. That was one of the tenets of
Mm.
their society, was thinking 7 generations ahead. So we're not going to ever change anything with willpower alone. We got to do it with a vision. And I have this saying that I love: hold the vision, not the circumstance. The circumstances say that our society eats meat, our society is pretty freaking damaged, and we're basically like living in poverty and slavery in our society. Um, that's the circumstances. But the vision is, I want to be free. I want the money I make to be enough. I want to feel good. I want to help others. I want all prosperity and well-being and unity for everyone. That's the vision. But the circumstances aren't that. So how do we change the circumstances to match our vision? By holding the vision, because it's the vision that creates the
Yeah.
circumstances. The universe comes in and conspires to assist us when we hold the vision. But if there are powerful evil people in place telling us what to believe, telling us through media, television, and mass marketing and junk food, advertising, and all this, the media telling us what to think and what to believe, they've hijacked our vision.
Mm-hmm.
So then they are the ones getting us to create their future for them. So
Yeah.
if we really want to start this journey of getting healthy and creating a better future for us and the planet and the animals, it's through taking back this hijacked vision and not even using willpower and using the power of the law of vibration. Because when we hold the vision, we're holding a vibration. How does that feel? We want to ask ourselves, what would I love? That feeling of, well, what would I love to experience? That's our attraction point. So if we can hold that attraction point, we will create the vision. Okay. But if someone else has hijacked our vision, then they're hijacking our attraction point. So we have to get back into an empowered place with using the universal laws, and the law of vibration is one of them, as to how we do this. So
Yeah,
that's what I think. That's what I
definitely.
think.
I love that. It's the vision. You gotta hold the vision.
Hold the vision. So the saying is, hold the
Yeah.
vision, not the circumstance. If
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I want $1 million, but I have no freaking idea how I'm going to make $1 million. I am currently making $9 an hour working at, some place. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you currently have, because the vision is your attraction point. And so the universe will
Yeah.
orchestrate and organize around your attraction point. It's a universal law.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll make $1 million at some point if you hold the vision. So it's not about the circumstance.
Right. Right. That's
Powerful
amazing.
stuff to realize that. And people who are in the self-development world and entrepreneurship, people who are self-employed, have to study these types of things in order to even create success in a world where it's not set up that way.
Yeah.
Our world is set up for people to be entrepreneurs or to thrive on their own. The system wants us to be dependent on the system and to work for the system and make the system money. So to break free from that, we have to be smart enough to learn the ropes of how to be empowered.
Great. That's a great message right there. Um,
Yeah.
well, thank you for coming on here, Shane. I bet a lot of people are gonna, benefit from this interview. If there's anything you'd like to say real quick before we end this.
Well, check out my YouTube channel, Raw Vegan Rising, and check out my website,
Yeah.
rawveganrising.com. I have a group coaching membership that I offer very inexpensive for people. $14.99 a month gets you access to my private coaching group. Well, it's a group coaching, but you get private coaching from me once you join the group because I'm in there, and so I can help people with this process. I mean, $14.99 a month, that's the cost of like a lunch, a cheap lunch, and you can get an entire month of coaching with me. I do a weekly live stream into the group. You can show up live. We can talk live. I help my members. And so that's 4 hours of content just like this, where I'm here talking and coaching people. 4 hours a month in my group for only $14.99 a month. I've been working on this for years to help people at this level. And so I used to do private coaching that was very expensive, and I've scratched all that and brought it really, really down to where people are at and made it accessible and affordable for people. And so it's just more about being part of the group and more people in the group, but it's still really, really powerful. So if you're someone who needs help and wants to know more, go to my website, rawveganrising.com, and check out my group coaching program.
Great. Yeah, I'll make sure to put those links as well, like in the description of the video. So,
Oh, good. Thanks, Jeremy.
yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank
Yeah,
you
you're very
for,
welcome. Thanks for hosting, and I appreciate it very much.
yeah, thank you for coming on, guys.